Okay, just starting it out and recap of the game. We talked, and for good reason, a lot about JT yesterday and the performance that he had. Incredible, epic performance, well-deserved, all the attention and praise. I do want to reiterate, I think everyone saw this and knows this, but just an overall, watching the tape today in all three phases, an overall great team victory. Special teams was great. Rigo, pins him down inside the 9 and the only punt. Badgley makes all his kicks. We cause a fumble. We have good coverage, good protection, really good special teams effort. Defensively, it really felt like it was maybe our defensive line as a whole, their best game of the year. We only had the 1 sack, but a big part of the game plan was to keep him in the well, be very 4 rushing as 1. I mean, it was a very detailed rush game plan, and the way it was executed by our defense caused interceptions, caused incompletions, caused third down stops. So, then the 3 interceptions we have are all big plays, short fields. So really good performance by the defense. And then obviously, again, JT had the big day, but man, the receivers are blocking downfield. The tight ends are amazing. And of course the O-line is unreal. So, and then on top of that, Carson has 100 yards passing, but I told him today, he grades out A+. He's 11 for 20, but there's 4 throwaways that are good throwaways. So essentially he's 11 for 16. When you look at it that way, really made a couple big time plays, had the big time scramble, and really handled the run checks in a great way. So great team win.
All right, we'll start with Kevin Bowen.
Frank, I know you hit on this a little bit yesterday, but your emotion in that post-game locker room, would you say more of that was your history with Buffalo or just the magnitude of what the game and this game in 2021 means to your football team?
Yeah, it was more about this year. I mean, it was all about my connection to this team and our season and our players and where we're at in our year. I just felt, like we said yesterday, I love our guys. I mean, I love our guys. I got so much respect for them. And I believe in our team. And it was a good moment. We talked Saturday night about creating a moment, and you need more than one, but yesterday was a good moment.
Mike Chappell.
Frank, have you got an update on Quentin?
No update, just aggravated. We'll have to take it day by day to see how bad.
Do you think maybe this is with Darius where it's something that it's just going to linger out just because you got 6 weeks to go and all that? Is it just going to linger, you think?
At some level, yeah. I mean, I probably see it, him fighting it, and he's a competitor. He's tough. He's going to do what he can. We need to give him as much rest as we can and see if we can't get out ahead of it a little bit. But there's no telling. I mean, I know he'll do everything he can do as far as treatment, rest, to be out there as much as he can.
One last thing, would it be hard to tell him to sit down for a game?
Yeah, and those kind of conversations it's in concert with the player, with someone like Quentin and the trainers and the doctors. And, at some point, does it make sense to do that, to try to get ahead of it? Or can we just keep managing it like it is? And that's the gray of the injury. We just have to take that day to day, week by week, to see if that discussion is ever worthy of having.
Thanks, Frank.
Stephen Holder.
When a player is doing, this sort of like unprecedented things like he is, how much of an effect does that have on everybody else? I know players rally around each other and all that, but I mean, this is like a different level. How much do you think there's a trickle down effect?
I think you're exactly right, Stephen. I think it's important to the other guys, and that's an indication that you have the right kind of team. Like, you hear the other guys like Pittman talking about, hey, we need to be talking about JT for MVP, and the stuff that he's doing. The only other time, or one other time I can remember being around something like this, is in '97 when I was playing for the Detroit Lions, and Barry Sanders was on our team, and he got 2,000 yards. And like, it was important to the whole team that Barry got 2,000 yards. And it wasn't just an individual accomplishment. So, you know, with what Jonathan is doing this year, and much like Barry Sanders, how humble Jonathan is, it even more magnifies how much everybody else wants it. And so that's just a good thing for our team.
JJ?
Hey, Frank, I know a lot of offenses will build checks into plays where if the numbers in the box are such, 8 guys in the box, you check from a run to a pass. But for you guys to hand the ball off so much to JT against those loaded fronts yesterday, what does that tell you about the confidence this offense has?
But yeah, a lot of confidence. It really, JJ, when you get against a loaded box, then what you have to count on is you have to count on creating some softness somewhere inside. You're not going to, chances of creasing something maybe are lower. You still can, but you still can get push. And that's what I saw yesterday. That's what gave me confidence to kind of keep calling runs, even against a heavy box. In a lot of scenarios with all the 8-man box we were getting, I might have been tempted to call a few more passes to kind of soften that up a little bit. But what I kept seeing was a surge by our O-line that kind of gave us the confidence to keep calling it.
And then beyond that, something Jack was talking about was if you get, 7-on-7 there, then it's JT versus one guy. And that has to be something you have confidence in too.
No doubt. We were talking about that today as a staff. As we were watching some of the tape and looking at a few things, trying to scheme things up for next week and future weeks. Like, hey, we just did this, and hey, watch if we did this, then it'll just put JT one-on-one on the corner, JT one-on-one on a safety, or linebacker, whatever the case may be. And as long as you can give him enough space, as long as you can get him in that one-on-one position in space, then you feel good about it. But that's the key. You have to scheme it up to give him the space that he needs, to win. And he doesn't need much. Like, I thought one of his best runs of the whole day yesterday would be one that most people wouldn't have realized. It was a massive run. It's the third play of the game. And if you guys get a chance, go back and watch this. It's 3rd and 2, and we call a run. And their nickel gets in. Pittman can't get to him to block him. He's right in the hole at the line of scrimmage. There's really no space. And JT somehow makes him miss, and we get enough yardage for the first down, and we continue to go on and score. Those kind of runs are huge in a game.
Mike Wells?
Hey, Frank, in your 4 years of being here, one thing you've been committed to is not wavering on your philosophy on how you want to go about things, whether it's a 4th down or your 1-0 weekly approach. Where did you get that mindset on how you wanted to coach be a head coach? Who taught you that kind of mindset along the way?
It started with my dad, who was a coach, very process oriented, very people oriented. Then Marv Levy was drilled that into me, deep into me, as a player. He was very process oriented. And then Tony Dungy, same way. All those and more. I'm just naming the more significant names that you guys would know that had the most influence on me.
Is that hard though sometimes, not to want to kind of change how you go about things as a head coach, and kind of, I don't want to say stubborn, but kind of be like, this is how I want to do it, and not kind of waver? I know you wavered some, but for the most part, you've kind of stuck to the same path along the way.
Yeah, no, it's really not hard, because it's really what I believe. And it's not just about me. It's what Chris believes. It's what the Irsay family believes. It's what our players, like we talked about yesterday, we got players who already have these leanings to, and I think we as an organization can give them a vision to take that a step deeper. So it doesn't mean we always get it right. I mean, that's the vision. I'm very convicted about that, but I make mistakes every game, every week. But as a team, it's the collective effort. It's the collective performance of all of us. So we'll continue down that track.
Olivia Ray?
Coach, I'm assuming that Carson is feeling all right today, but after you went back and watched that film, I want your thoughts on that shot that was taken on him in the second quarter. I know it was kind of shocking for us to go back and rewatch it, and if you were surprised that Addison didn't get ejected for that.
Yeah, I was surprised when I saw the replay, when I saw it on tape today, not just how low it was, but how late it was. I'm not going to comment on whether I think he should have been ejected or not. It's sometimes it's hard as a player. I get that. I'll see that. I'm not going to. I don't want to impute motives, but I'm glad he's all right. But it was definitely a penalty for sure. It was low and it was late. There's no place in the game for stuff like that. So I'm not imputing motives to him. I sure hope it wasn't malicious. I probably think it wasn't, but certainly not the kind of thing we want in our game.
Kevin Bowen.
Frank, going back to Jonathan, his playing time has really increased the last couple of weeks. I know some score can dictate that, but if you look at September, October, it really seems like he's been on the field more, not necessarily maybe touches. Has that been a focus that you guys have wanted to do?
Yeah, I think at some level, yes, Kevin. Again, as you guys know, I kind of, the way we handle the positional rotations, I really let the position coach, by and large, take control of that. So Coach Montgomery, he kind of has control of that. And we talk about what the plan is, but then he's watching his guys play in and play out to know if they need a break and and so on and so forth. So I trust Scotty in how he rotates those guys. He knows we want Jonathan on the field as much as he can. And then the other thing is Jonathan, yesterday, if scoring 5 touchdowns wasn't enough, I mean, he was stellar in protection with what he did in the protection game as well. He was on point there. So, he'll continue to get a lot of play time, but we need to mix it up some.
Last one, Mike Chappell.
I think with the 1-0 mentality that you've brought and you stick with, it's got to be important when you're 1-5, 0-3, 1-4 to keep you from getting 2 down. Is it also pretty important when you're on this 5 out of 6 and you're on a run and you've got a chance to feel really good about yourselves after Buffalo, not to let you get too high?
There's no doubt. We talked about that today in the team meeting. You got to fight against it. You got to keep the pressure on. It's just as equally, if not more important, when things are going well. Just human nature to ease up just a little bit, to let all the positive talk go to your head. It just somehow every individual person has to find a way to block that stuff out, just like you have to block out the negative stuff and stay focused on what's important in the preparation. What we kind of summed up today was, our cycle is, preparation, practice, perform. Preparation, practice, perform. That's really where our focus needs to be. The best teams, the best players, that's what they do. And I believe we have the team and the players who have that mindset.
But human nature is people like to hear good things about themselves.
No doubt. And just like we don't like to hear bad stuff about ourselves. That's why we would always recommend to coaches and players, don't read too much. It's hard not to read. It's hard to not read anything or hear anything. It's just in the nature of this culture we live in. But I think it's very healthy to minimize it as much as you can.